Two seals and a walrus. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Two Seals and a Walrus. I'm Sean Webb. Ben is still out with the COVID. So we're doing a show with two different SEALs today. As a matter of fact, we have our regular co-host, Doug Moulton, Navy SEAL sniper, not medic, but sniper. And as our guest today, we also have a former Navy SEAL, Jonathan Cleck, who has taken it upon himself to add himself to the world of stand-up comedy. And Doug says, yeah, he's funny, so we should have him on. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. I like that you, as you were introducing our missing host, that you just showed the camera cut to just a picture of his empty seat.
We had a little alien blow up there, but
I feel like that's a metaphor for my life. Here's John, just an empty void of a human being.
Well, Ben's really here. He's just in stealth mode, testing some new technology for the Department of Defense, and we still can't see him or hear him, so it's working.
Cloaking device. Man, I knew they were coming out with that shit.
So welcome to the show. Where the hell are you in the world?
Philly, baby.
So are they still alive in the playoffs or the? I didn't think so. Sorry, let me turn those screws. You could have worn a hat that said "loser" on it, but you know.
Yeah, but your mom is already wearing my left at her house. Yeah, bitches, that's how the show's gonna go.
you know we're gonna have to cut it short. So
I'll be the heckler in the crowd, and you'll be the comedian on stage handling the heckler.
Hey, when you talk about doing stand-up comedy, no kidding. There's if you don't know, there's like different levels of stand-up, and so you start out doing your routine, and then you eventually graduate to doing crowd work. And that's a big thing, because then you got to be quick on your feet. Whereas you can do, if you work material, you can work it in front of the mirror forever and work in front of some friends. You can do it, at typically you'll go to places where like it's open mic and there's not too many hecklers because nobody gives a shit that you're on stage. And then you graduate doing crowd work, then you go on the big boy stage, and that's where you actually might get a heckler too. That's next level comedy, man. Some of the guys like the Rogans of the world and the guys who can just masterfully handle hecklers, man, that's next level shit. The kind of stuff that the guys like fired one day, but it'll just handle the heck.
Yeah, like that guy from Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a variation of handling hecklers. Just defaulting to your racist roots, because I don't know if that's
isn't Philly
handling hecklers.
Philly's where Bill Burr made history, right? Was that yes. Crowd in Philadelphia where they turned on him and he's like, "Fuck you, I'm not leaving the stage," and then he started just berating the city and all of its sports teams and turned the whole place back around and had him rolling at the end.
Yeah, Bill. Yeah, that was one of the great comedies. You can find it on YouTube, but Bill was not. I don't actually know if Bill was getting heckled by like thousands of people, or if thousands of people were being heckled by one guy on stage, and he essentially just turned the tide. But that is a great scene. There's a couple like cool comedy things. Hannibal Buress did his bit that started some of the exposure about Bill Cosby, another Philly comedian. But Hannibal Buress did a bit on the stage in Philly, and that's where he said something about Bill Cosby being a rapist, and that bit kind of caught traction, and next thing you know, I guess the FBI was like, maybe we should look into this. If a comedian said something, it must be true. Maybe we should look into this.
That's right, when everybody started taking what every comedian said way too seriously, and so that's when people started being canceled for jokes.
Yeah. Wait, so before we jump in too much, you want to give a little background on who you are?
No.
I know, that's why I want to do it.
Well, man, where do I start? You had a very cool intro. I feel like you guys, Navy SEAL sniper and like all around cool guy, and then you're like, hey, here's a guy who, I don't know, he made it through buds, and then he couldn't make anything of himself, so he became a comedian.
No, I'll tell you this. I joke, I jest, and a lot with comedians and other funny folks, because we all like to have a little bit of funny in our. But I'll tell you this: of any vocation on the planet, and I'm saying this very seriously. I'm not trying to suck up to any comedians or you in particular, but I'm saying this. The experience of laughter and the effect of laughter on the human physiology and the human psyche is amazing. And anyone who takes it upon themselves to make it their goal in life to help other people experience that phenomenon is, to me, one of the best human beings in existence. So thank you, sir, for that. Can I put you on any higher of a pedestal?
Well, I appreciate it. Like, no kidding. So I am, I geek out on a little bit on comedy. I'm this, somebody called me a Renaissance man one time, and as much as that I don't, there are people who are true Renaissance men. I think maybe on paper I have a little bit of that. So, so I have this team guy background. So I was a team guy I did 5 years and change active duty initially, and then went in the reserves, and I've been in the reserves for the last 20. Actually, I hit 25 this year. And I'm actually getting ready to punch out here sometimes. But so I have this long tenure as a team guy, and 25 years in both enlisted as an officer in the Navy. Then I have a little bit of this other side of me, this civilian job where I was a federal agent for a while, and I was in small business and an entrepreneur, and I have this varied background. And then I went back to school a couple years ago, and I'm in a doctoral program now for organizational leadership. And so I have this I'm not an expert in any one thing, but I just kind of dabble. I'm essentially, you know what I am, kids, is I am a model of like what not to be when you grow up, like a guy who just doesn't become like a master of anything, just sort of continues to shuffle from one side to another, trying to figure out what he wants to be when he grows up. But I'll tell you why it's all relevant. I went back to school and I was like, I want to study this leadership. And I want to study the science of leadership. And I was on a plane one day, totally true story. I was on a plane, and the flight attendant, she's chatting me up, and she says, I was writing a paper while I was on the plane. She said, what are you writing about? And I explained to her like this, what I was studying about human physiology and how it relates to leadership and blah, blah, blah. And I went on for, I don't know, good 5-10 minutes. She's like, okay. She's like, wow, you're really knowledgeable about it. I said, well, I hope so. You're supposed to be at the doctor level. You know this stuff. She goes, well, are you passionate about it? And I was like, wait, no, I just explained to you like everything that I'm studying. And it was like one of those seminal moments. And she says, no, I heard you explain it. That, you're knowledgeable, but are you passionate about it? And I was like, it was one of those moments that kind of stops you in your track. Well, I don't know. And so in all seriousness, I thought about it the rest of that flight. I went home and I talked to my wife about it. I was like, I don't think I'm passionate about it. What are you really passionate about? That was that question. It was essentially I was asking myself. And so I went back to my dissertation chair, and I was like, I don't want to write about this other thing that I had been writing about, which is like how people train and how they stress inoculation and cognitive load capacity and things like this. Shut up, nerd. No. And so I decided to write my dissertation on the use of humor, and specifically the use of provocative humor. And that's what I've been working on for the last year and a half, is actually studying how people use, specifically organizational leaders, how they use provocative humor to address very sensitive topics, race, sexual identity, all of these things that are now part of the workplace and that organizational leaders have to deal with. And that, there's a couple ways they deal with it. Either they don't, or they put a memo out, or they pass it off to the HR manager, or it doesn't get addressed, some way. And I want to study like how is exactly what you said, is humor can be such a way that we level the playing field. It can be such a way that we can address and turn something that's otherwise a sensitive topic, or maybe a hypersensitive topic, and turn it into something that we can all laugh about a little bit, and that we can all address, because it's been the conversation's been opened up in a humorous format. And I'll tell you what, man, it's been awesome to get behind the science of humor and dig a little bit about what makes people laugh, what they can laugh at, what they can't, how they learn to overcome like their resistance to laughter, to sensitive topics. So it's been to your point, man. It's been a very cool thing to geek out on the science of humor.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I mean, when you start to dig into that, you start to understand the humanness of
Yes.
everyone who's in an organization, so to speak. And, I dabbled a little bit in leadership as well. In training, I was tapped to be one of the first instructors that Google was going to spin out their internal mindfulness leadership program into a nonprofit. And I got to be a part of the first group of instructors out there to go through the training, et cetera. And it's amazing how much people try to use extrinsic motivation, like money or awards or, threats of violence to get your work done or whatever it is, when the reality is the best leaders in the world are utilizing intrinsic motivation. They're getting the people in their teams aligned and getting their internal goals and their internal feelings aligned with the organization's goals so that they feel like there's some type of buy-in from their internal existence. And man, I can certainly see how humor can just tap right into that internal space of creating that connection and getting that team member aligned with, I mean, when you're making people laugh, you're getting that oxytocin dump in there where they can make a connection to an idea or a connection to a goal or whatever. And man, I mean, that's got to be super interesting to dive deep into the bowels of the human psyche and figure out how to basically hack a human being with laughter into getting them into a space that's optimal for an organization. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I've only scratched the surface of it, but yeah, it's a cool thing.
Nice.
Hey, are we gonna like enough of the like nerd stuff? Are we going back to like dick and fart jokes?
Yeah, we're gonna circle. We'll circle around. Don't worry, we'll get there. John, you and I met at a fundraiser doing a dog and pony show. We've never worked on active duty or anything. We were working as a fundraiser, basically.
That's that one at just south of Virginia Beach, there, right?
Yeah, it was the Virginia Beach Fallen Heroes Foundation, yes. And so like we're in a helicopter shooting blanks at a person, and there's a dog that tackles somebody, and there's fake stuff. It was funny, but that was a horrible period of my life. Which these guys all know this. I was going through fucking hell. No, I really was. Like, this girl I was dating had a fake pregnancy, whatever. But I still look back. I
started laughing as soon as you said that.
Oh, dude, it's laughing.
Held off my lap like, oh. Yeah.
No, it's past that point now. But that period, I am circling back to humor, and I'll make it less serious by tying in a dick joke. But in that moment there where we got to hang out, and I still look back with like positive memories of that, even though it was a nesting egg of fucking shit. And so we talk about humor a lot and its power to soften things or to be the analgesic for abrasive moments. I think it's amazing, and I think it's really cool because I actually didn't know that about you, that you're studying that, which I'm kind of glad I didn't going into this, because it gives a little bit of all effect. But I think it's amazing that you're studying that and actually applying it, especially from the background or the being a SEAL. I think most SEALs, they either have the ability to produce dark humor, but I think they all have the ability to understand dark humor.
Absolutely. I was going to say that NSW, so Naval Special Warfare, essentially what we call the community of teams, is I don't want to say it sets you up for failure, but there's a couple. And again, as I start to study this, you really start to peel back the layers of what's going on in the world in terms of humor, and you start to look at other comedians as masters of the science of humor. Like I know we talk about it later, but there's a couple of comedians that come to mind. But I think I've always enjoyed humor and enjoyed comedy and what the physiological effect of laughter, but it is the teams going into the teams into what I think people on the outside, they have this I think they have the image that SEALs are like, they just sit around. They're like, a little more like the jockos of the world, like, kind of the mean glare and like kill. Like I sleep like a vampire. I just wake up in the morning and I'm like, kill. So I think it throws some of them awry that, that some of the funniest people I've ever met in my life were guys who found humor in those super intense or super dark moments of the world. Some of the funerals that we unfortunately have been to, for our fallen guys. Some of the funniest times are where you're trying to process this sadness, and one of the guys who he just strikes the chord in this moment where you're trying to seek some way to process the sadness, and he'll come up with something hilarious, and you're like, it's so inappropriate, and it's such like this gallows humor thing. And so as I've studied it, you find that nurses do a lot of the same. Nurses and doctors, when a patient expires, it's a way for us to process sadness. There's the saying, like, if I weren't laughing about it, I'd be crying. And that's a real thing, right? But I think I learned that in the teams where like even in Bud, you're in the most miserable of situations, freezing cold, starving, you're tired, you're grumpy, you're all these things are playing against you, and yet you find a way to find the humor in that situation, and that humor becomes contagious, laughter becomes contagious amongst the group, and I think it has a real a mental thing where you're able to when you're able to laugh at the direness of your own situation. There's very little that can break you, especially as you take that kind of mindset into the teams and then outside.
So what gave you the catalyst to make the jump to want to jump up on stage? Like, because I know a lot of funny people. Doug's funny person. He would probably succeed at stand up. I make my family laugh. I make my kids laugh. I make the other people around me laugh. It's probably how I'm married up into my wife, who's a lot more attractive than I am, right? But what was the catalyst that made you make that leap to say, I'm going to get up on stage and I'm going to try to make people laugh. I'm going to try to put together material, stuff like that. Is it part of the growth process into your PhD, or is this something that's like, I really want to do this?
I've told the story a couple times in I have a comedy partner, Josh. He's another guy. He was a federal agent with me, and we both hit our early 40s. And I think, like a lot of folks, when you hit that point, you're kind of there. The midlife crisis is a real thing. So we were looking for some guys join a bowling league. Some guys like play poker at night. Josh and I both had this creativity that we didn't have an outlet for. And we both just said one day, we're like, what if we try stand up? There was a couple things for me. One is I was looking for a creative outlet. I wanted to make people laugh. I enjoy the feedback of making somebody laugh. And the other thing was, it just, I was looking for just something, something that would kind of get me going. But I one of the things I missed as I started getting towards the end of my career in the teams is not just the adrenaline dump, but the excitement of something. And in the teams, it was always, whether it was jumping or shooting or diving, there was always, and it's not just the adrenaline, but it's the excitement of just doing something, something to challenge yourself. It wasn't jumping out of a plane, wasn't the excitement of falling. It was the excitement of challenging yourself and facing something that no matter, I can't speak for everybody. No matter how many times I got to the door of that plane, I was like, why the hell am I jumping out?
That was, yeah. Ben was here. He would tell you how much he loathed jumping.
Yeah. And I every time I've told this joke on stage, like every time before I jumped, just like it was almost an unconscious thing. I would look back and I'd be like, the best of my knowledge, the pilot is not drunk and he still seems to be functioning. The engines are all working. Why am I going? And then off I'd go, and I'd be like, well, that was a fucking stupid idea, but can't turn back now. So, but I missed that piece of like sort of facing this like terrifying and gratifying all at the same time. And, there's that people say, like, if you're not getting out of your own comfort zone, then you're missing opportunities, like really to learn and to grow. So for me, and it's funny, I've used this same analogy before about going on stage. We're talking about jumping out of planes. So for me, when I am backstage, there's another comedian up ahead of me, and I'm waiting for my to go. That to me is like, Doug, I know you can relate, right? When the plane takes off, you're like, we're really doing this, huh?
That's exactly what it said.
Right? And you're sitting there, and the plane's taking off, and you're like, man, like, we landed. That wouldn't be the worst either. If like,
dude, literally. I mean, I really enjoy jumping, but I would still have that thought. Be like, I'd be okay if we like turned around and landed. Like, I would have that thought, internal monologue every fucking time. Like, I'd be okay if we landed.
There, you're like, if the cloud cover's too bad to jump, I'm okay with that too. I wouldn't have to personally bow out, but that'd be okay.
Exactly. So, yeah.
And then they open the door, and you get to the door, and you're like, shit. And for me, it's like, in my comedy partner Josh say the same thing. Like he will wear a hole in the floor, pacing back and forth behind stage. Then when they call your name, you go up past the curtain. That to me is the same thing as jumping out of the plane. Your chute's not open yet, but you have jumped out of the plane. There's no turning back. You can't come out from behind the curtain and be like, oh, and you turn back and go, I mean, you can, right? So
The best show ever.
so the final part of the analogy is when your chute finally opens and when you're flying through the air and you're trying to steer and you're kind of taking a little bit of time to enjoy it, but it's not until you're under canopy, until you've pulled your chute, your parachute is open, that like you're safe and that you can really enjoy the ride. And the same thing happens for me when I go out and I start my material. And you're kind of looking at the crowd and you're trying to work and connect. You're trying to find somebody that like you're making eye contact, who's connecting with you. And when you get that first laughter, that's your chute opening, bro. When you get that first laughter, your heart rate. I mean, if I check my smartwatch and I watch my heart rate, like, when I get that first laugh, it just settles in. And then the crowd has shown you like your chute is open. The crowd is yours to lose, and then it's smooth sailing. Even if you bomb with a joke after that, if you've earned that first joke, you can get them back. And it's really, the analogies are that it's very, very parallel to the kind of excitement, the rush, the terror that you feel jumping out of a plane. And I think that's why I ended up going back to the stage. I missed it.
Wow. That's a good story. I mean, I can relate. I've jumped out of a plane a couple of times, not for the SEALs, of course, but I understand. There's like this moment where you're like, wait, fuck, what?
Yeah.
Why am I leaving the door of this perfectly operating aircraft? But I can identify, because in those first few seconds of acceleration, when you are completely weightless and unsupported by any physical structure on the planet, there is a moment of terrifying freedom and liberty that is just addictive in a certain sense. Right? Yeah. And then you hit a little bit of terminal velocity and whatnot, and then you're like, fuck, this sucks. But, I get it. I mean, I've spoken in front of large crowds. I've never done comedy in front of large crowds, although I've integrated jokes into the speaking and stuff like that. But I've stepped out on a stage in front of 2,200 folks, where I was trying to give a talk on whatever it was for the national sales meeting or whatever. And I'm in front of 2,200 salespeople of the organization, and I'm trying to give them information on what they need to sell or yada, yada, yada. There's a point where you're just like, fuck, how many people have the opportunity to judge me in this moment? And is my career going to be ruined if I just totally fuck the monkey fucking the football on the 50-yard line in front of all these people?
I've told a joke. Sorry, I just remembered this. I've told a joke in a crowd of strangers. Like, I was giving a talk, non-SEALs, non-military, once in my life. Because it's different if you're doing it in front of SEALs, because it's just like, fuck you if you don't think it's funny. I don't care. You don't give a shit. You're like, fuck you. No, I was asked by NCDOT to give a talk. I think this one was either thermal imaging or drone technology or something. And I was like, hey, I had this, like, the funny bug. I was like, let me try to be funny, right? I mean, the story didn't go super great, but like, I'm going to tell it anyways. So I was like, I gotta think of like a SEAL joke, because I'm gonna give an introduction and it's gonna come up, right? So it's like, all right, little self-deprecation is not bad. So I was like, before I begin, everyone, this is like, like engineers, like different people, right? Like maybe not the crowd I should have been trying to do this with. And I was like, before I begin or get into my intro, I wanted to just kind of open up with a joke. I was in the military, and I learned that sometimes if you open up with a joke, it's a good way to start, get everyone's attention, get everyone feeling good. And I was like, so here's my joke. And I was like, it's a meta joke. So really, I told this because I thought
is tremendous right now. The build up. I can't wait for this awesome joke.
It's not though. So anyways, I go, all right, here's my joke. I go, how can you tell if a SEAL's at a bar? They looked at me. I was like, don't worry, he'll tell you. And no one laughed, right? And I go, all right, a little bit about myself. I was a Navy SEAL. And I paused for laughter. And there was like 3 people that were like, everyone else is like,
when's he gonna tell this joke?
I steamrolled so fast. I was like, okay, thermal technology. These are we use drones over here. Technology. Oh, I sprinted away.
The crazy part about that, right, is and people have said, like, how can those two be related? But yet, like, how can you say that something that threatens your life, right, jumping out of a plane or something, how can you say that that is similar to the same kind of fear or terror or nerves that you feel going on stage, either to tell jokes or, as you guys said, I mean, public speaking. Everybody knows public speaking is one of the great fears that we have, and it's kind of a fascinating. Again, we geek out a little bit on it, but it's kind of a fascinating look at the psyche, the human psyche, because what are you really scared about when you're going to go up speaking and when you're going to go tell a joke? What are you really feared about? Is a lack of acceptance? Is it like nobody's? I mean, a couple places you might go, people throw bottles at you, but by and large, that what happens when you fail is nothing,
Yeah.
right? But yet it's the same. And guys, Doug, you said, right? You guys both said the same thing. But yet going and speaking in front of people or telling jokes or just giving a lecture, you have that same sense of nerves before you jump out of the plane as you do when you're about to go on stage. And it's kind of a fascinating look at why. What is the worst thing?
It doesn't feel that different to me as far as like feeling a fear or hesitation towards something. To me, they don't feel any different.
Right, which is crazy because one, if your chute doesn't open, you're a pancake. And the other one, nothing happens. If you bomb with a joke or if you deliver a speech on drone technology and it sucks, absolutely nothing happens. That's sort of the fast look at how the brain's terrified of this. But
Well, it's like my brain would rather turn into a pancake than look like an idiot.
Well, I think the scientific answer to that is it's a pending devaluation of self, right? It's, your body self when you're jumping out of a plane could end up in the wrong configuration when you're done with this
That's an
activity.
very poetic way to say smushed.
Right? Or when you're out on the stage, you have some type of equity invested in your personal value connected with your performance and how well you're going to be able to move a crowd with laughter or be funny or be accepted or whatever. And so if that doesn't happen, then that's a pending devaluation of self, which is the same type of processing the brain's going to put up for you anytime you jump out of an airplane. Or like, somebody who's attached to you is a portion of your sense of self as well, according to Jim Cohn at UVA and all this science that I wrote about in these books that I wrote. But
He wrote a book, by the way.
Yeah,
we call this a book plug.
I wrote a few books. But when you're connected with somebody,
hold on, listen. I said I'm in a doctoral program. I didn't say I was at fucking Oxford or Harvard. I'm at a doctoral program at Wilmington University. It's you know what I mean? It's a step above University of Phoenix. Nothing personal, University of Phoenix. But you don't have to try and wow me with your self. Listen, I don't even know what you just said. I nodded like I was supposed to.
None of this is my science, by the way. I just kind of put it all together. But
it's science.
But it's the same thing. No, but it's the same thing.
Science.
When you step out on the stage, you have a pending devaluation of self because you put some value in the fact that you want to make people laugh, and if you don't, then you're a fuckhead, right? And so then you're scared. You're scared of winding up being the pancake fuckhead.
Yep.
Which. You can wind up being on the stage, or you can wind up being out in the middle of a field somewhere when your chute doesn't open.
So, do you have any useful or interesting insights you've gathered from your studies?
Well, it's interesting. You guys brought up one at the beginning where you talked about like the physiological, emotional, and the true biological value of humor, and that's something that So I'm a consultant today. I left the federal government and happened to find myself lucky enough to land with a great veteran-owned company, Greencastle Consulting, shameless plug. But that's my day job today is as a leadership consultant. I help organizations and leaders work through change and kind of get out of their own way. And one of the core leadership skill traits or skills that are leadership traits that we focus on is the use of humor and levity. And we put that right up there with building trust and effectively communicating with your people, being transparent, leading with empathy and emotional intelligence. I've put up using humor and levity at the same level because it has that kind of value. It levels playing fields. I mean, you think about how it diminishes status in a good way. If there's different pecking orders in the organization and one guy comes in, as Doug, you said, the self-deprecation, it lowers that status and it kind of creates a little bit more of a level playing field. a way to address uncomfortable topics that nobody wants to talk about. So there's a variety of ways of reasons that humor is over or undervalued as a critical component of what makes an effective organization. But I don't know if I offer tremendous insights in little anecdotes, but I'll tell you what I always default to is the exposure I got to humor in the teams. And again, I think that's where I cut my teeth in terms of learning how humor can be of value in the teams. There were so many instances, and Doug, both you guys, I'm sure you guys both have a experience, and everybody does. Anybody who's been there was police academy or college or just in some setting where you were dealing with something hard and somebody introduced some element of humor, and you're like, man, that really took the edge off. And in the teams, particularly in buds, at some of the funniest moments, there was a guy, one of my great friends, Holland Romero, he used to always tell the story about how he ended up in buds, and he was one of those guys that he was kind of like me, like a lot of us, lost, graduated from high school, kind of lost for what he wanted to do in the world. And he was at a party one night in college, and the guy was like, yeah, like I'm going to the Navy. And this guy was like, and Holland, who turned out had a great career in the teams. Holland, what are you going to do? And he says, I'm going to be a SEAL. And Holland says, what's that? And the guy says, wow, these guys are badasses. And Holland's like, oh, that sounds cool. I think I want to try that. And and the guy at the party's like, hey, bro, like this is for people who are serious about this thing, man. You either like.
Knowing what I know now, like I'm like, no, that guy's gonna make it. That guy,
exactly
dead serious. You're done. You're done.
There's two people in the story, and only one of them made it.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show how.
That was my assumption, is he didn't make it. Like anyone that's serious never makes it.
They never do.
No.
And so Holland's great stories is like he didn't study anything about the teams, didn't learn anything, but he showed up at Buds, and they were like, you're gonna start running now. Run as fast as you can. And Holland would be like for 6 months, I'd be in runs, and I'd be like, hey guys, what are we running from? And then the instructor would be like, now turn around and run back. And then Holland would be like, but we just got here. Like, what are we running? And he had this great, like self-deprecating and humorous look at life. And that's how a guy like that excels in some very dire circumstances. I have always said that the naval special warfare, it sets you up for success, but it also sets you up for failure in the outside. What I mean by that is you learn to laugh. You learn to tolerate such insane amount of discomfort, or you learn to get past what other people might find uncomfortable, or you learn to just persevere through things that other people, would otherwise not persevere through. They fail or give up, but that's really essentially what we're talking about in a lot of ways. And so it sets you up for success because you can be a rock star pretty easily in the outside by just doing what you learned around in the teams. But it sets you up for failure because in the teams, you're surrounded by all rock stars. And for you to be a rock star in the teams, pretty hard because you're surrounded by all guys who are just their standard of performance is the best that you got every day, all day. And we're also very critical of anybody who brings 99% to the table one day. You might as well have brought 5% because we just we destroy our own. But when you go to the outside, people don't take kindly to like, oh, well, that was an awful performance. Like, what the fuck's the matter with you? People are like, oh. You're like,
yeah, I recently.
The way we talk. I know you're my kid's kindergarten teacher, but I thought that's just how we talked around here. So there's it sets you up for failure, but also sets you up for success, but also failure.
Dude, I'm still finding that to be true. This happened this morning. I was trying to do. I've apologized for this to my fiance, but I was trying to set up a printer real last minute because I need to print something. She comes in to point out that I should have printed it. Should have figured out how to set up the printer before right now. I told her she's being useless and that she needed to leave unless she was going to help. But I wasn't trying to be mean. I was like, hey, you're being useless. Like, help or go away. It didn't go well.
I'm sorry, are we not honest around here?
I'm sorry. I thought you wanted to communicate honestly. Yeah, I was an idiot. I put my foot in my mouth on that one.
Is there humor that you bring from your SEAL experiences that you cannot share on stage because it just like that same type of inequity occurs where the rest of humanity just doesn't work on SEAL mind processing speed and
this is the good
humor?
example though. Like if Sean tells me I'm being useless, my knee-jerk reaction is, oh, how can I be useful?
Right.
And like no emotions, just thank you for that feedback. How can I be useful?
Yeah, totally. How can I shift
You're
that?
for the blatant honesty, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I am a fan of provocative humor, and I think again, I think I've always been a fan of it. But humor that gets you to think, and it sounds cliche, but Chappelle. I think Dave Chappelle, is a master of provocative humor. If you look at what he used to do with his with the Chappelle show,
God,
some
it's
of
so
the
good.
skits,
My God.
Great show.
like the Nigar family, N-I-G-G-A-R,
Yeah.
and how he perpetuated white and black stereotypes in that skit, but he did it in such a masterful way that everybody understood the absurdity of what he was doing, but yet both white and black people could laugh equally as hard about the absurdity and the stereotypes. And that's not something that we can do in society, is just laugh about the inequities or stereotypes of black people or stereotypes of white people. But he, and there's other guys that have done it for years, but I think of Chappelle as one of the modern comedians who is just a master, and like the black white supremacist.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Perpetuating black and white stereotypes, and not only that, but dismantling those stereotypes to the point where you can't help but go, like, if you are on the fringe left or the fringe right, or you're racist or whatever, you can't defend the stereotypes because he has dismantled them in such a fascinating way that you go, yeah, if I actually do sound like that stereotype, like I'm a complete dipshit. And he really, he is to me, and his stand up is the same way. So not that I'm even close to being in Chappelle's realm, but
No, we get it. You're comparing yourself to Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, totally.
that's what I said. I'm glad you read between the lines, because that's what I was trying to say. If you didn't say it, I was going to have to say it myself.
You appreciate his approach, you appreciate his humor, and you like the provocative approach, right?
Yeah, I do. And so what I enjoy on stage is a little bit of the shock value. I think people, one of my things now that I'm at the end of my career in the Navy, and I'm just not that far away from getting out, I've started using material on stage talking about being a SEAL, and what I like to do is have some fun with maybe what the stereotype of what they've had in the teams, and I always talk about like all of these specimens of human perfection are the guys that have portrayed SEALs in the movies, like Mark Wahlberg in The Lone Survivor, and then Bradley Cooper in American Sniper, and even who was the fat kid from Parks and Rec?
Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt.
But he was the fat kid in Parks and Rec, and then he shows up on Zero Dark 30, and he's like super ripped.
Yeah.
And then I get up on stage and I go, and then there's me, like a middle-aged bald guy with like a dad bod and like moderate self-esteem, and you can hear the girl. I always make fun of, like, and ladies, if you ever get on Tinder and you swipe right, because a guy has the image up there and he has the title TV Steel, and you swipe right, like, this is what's showing up on your date. Just to be clear, yeah. It ain't Mark Wahlberg or Bradley Cooper. This is what's showing up on your date. And so I like to have some fun with, like, sort of the contrast between what Hollywood portrays as a team guy and the fact that we're real human beings. And I get fat when I stop working out. and my kids think I'm just some dorky dad, and because I tell dad jokes. So so I like to have a little bit of fun with that contrast.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So is there a lot of humor that you've pulled from the SEALs? How much of your regular life, like, what's your mix right now of like SEAL stuff versus regular life stuff? Like, what's your material like? What's the mix?
It's probably a good mix. Like, I like to, again, because Dave Chappelle and I are equals.
I'm so happy we're continuing this joke.
Just keep going. Oh, Twitter is just gonna light up. All three of my fans on Twitter.
They're gonna lose their shit.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not Chappelle. And I'd be like, I know, Mom.
Oh man, listen, you can't make me laugh too hard. I just worked out with the first time yesterday in like 2 months. So
So the other stuff, the other is my observations, and and again, like this is why I think Chappelle and some other guys, Dave Attell, and there's some other guys, masters of making observations of of the absurdity of the world that we live in right now, especially as we're talking about Black Lives Matter and the pro-Trumpers and those are the two fringe extremes on either end, and the rest of us are caught in the middle, looking at the left and right, being like, like, did the American people lose a bet? Like, or what's how did we get here? And I try and make some observations about, have some fun with the absurdity of the world we live in. One of the jokes that I do, again, one of the things I like doing is the fact that that a white middle-aged, middle-income guy today, there is no more privileged, if you will, individual by according to everybody else's accounts, right? So I am the guy who has the least latitude in doing jokes that are racially, sexistly. That's where I just made it up.
Sure.
Sensitive. So
we'll fact check.
Yeah. Fact check. Fail. So one of the bits I do is I talk about like the absurdity of of some racist, of how racists are racist on the black and white side, and I say, like, I'm not racist. I don't have a racist bone in my body, but I seem to find myself in positions where I appear racist. And I go, I'll give you an example. I go, my wife and I, we wanted to take our kids on a ski vacation. Very white thing to do, but we wanted to take our kids on a ski vacation. We go to the travel agent, and we walk into the travel agent's office. We have little kids. I want to take them to a place that's fun for my wife and I, but also a little safe for the kids. She says, I have the perfect mountain. She's like, there's a mountain that has, or a ski resort that has two mountains. On the one mountain are the easy and the medium slope. That you've never been skiing. That has, each slope is denoted by a color and a shape. So the easy and the medium are the green circles and the blue squares. He says on a completely other mountain are the hard slopes, which are the black diamonds. And there's somebody comes into the travel agent behind me, and without looking over my shoulder, I happen to say to the travel agent, "Oh, good, they keep all the blacks on a separate mountain." And I looked over my shoulder, and there was a very perturbed African American couple, and understanding that I had been
apparently they don't ski.
Yeah. Understanding I've been taken out of context, I tried to explain. I said, "No, you don't understand. They're dangerous. I try to keep my kids away from them." And then the joke goes on from there. So, right. So if you want to dig into the science,
all right, that was a good one.
But But if you want to dig into the science of it, the reason that joke worked, right, is because, like, a white guy taken out of context, I appear racist. I try and fix it by making it worse, and it's just it's absolutely. And I have a couple other bits that go on with that joke, but it's but it usually gets a good laugh from
white people.
It gets a good laugh from white and black people who are like, I can't believe this like white guy just got up and said that, and then we have a laugh. And then I talk about the absurdity of of hating somebody for the color of their skin. Say, oh, there's so many other reasons to hate somebody.
See, that's a good one.
A teenager, yeah. Like, I'm like telemarketers and teenagers. Those are people that are easy to hate.
Telemarketers and teenagers.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh man! So how did 2020 treat you? We're a couple of weeks into 2021. We're trying to flush the fucking thing down in the toilet. What happened to you last year? We're taking a survey because my year wasn't horrible. Doug's was not so great. Ben's was not so great. A lot of people out there, their 2020 sucked, and they're still reeling from it. How'd you fare?
My boss, who I'm lucky to work for another SEAL, a guy named Joe Crandall, great human being. A shameless plug for a promotion. No, Joe's he's one of those, again, we're cut from the same cloth a little bit, so he's a very balanced guy. He's always able to kind of find the silver lining in very dire circumstances. And he posted on social media the other day. He said, "I love 2020. Like, what a great opportunity to learn through learn in the fire, like really learn in the trenches, and whether you wanted to be in the trenches or not, we were all in the trenches. Right? And he said, I love the opportunity. And so it makes you reflect back. It certainly threw us for some curveballs, but man, I tell you, my wife and I, we made the best of it. Started a new job. I was working for the federal government at the beginning of 2020, and my wife and I had been looking for me to jump ship, and I was like, you know what, the economy's booming. Like, who needs the safety of the federal government paycheck? The economy's booming. Let's make this jump. What could possibly happen? And no. So 3 weeks later, the bottom of the world drops out. Like, oh, this is what could happen. Yeah, I didn't see this one. We survived, and I'm still with this great company, and it's been a hell of a roller coaster. I tell you what, I probably learned more this year, not just because of starting a new job, but because of COVID, and because of the roller coaster that it threw us on. I've learned more about myself, family. I've had time to spend with the kids. Remember when we were going to do 1 week off because this thing was going to last 2 weeks, and when everybody's spring break went to 2 weeks, we're like, oh, I can handle that. Then 6 months later, we weren't sure if the kids were ever going to go back to school.
Yeah.
Well, we took advantage of that early time when we started canceling all the kids' camps and everything. We were like, all right, well, I guess we're gonna teach kids shit at home here. And
Yeah, I was like, fuck, now we gotta love each other.
yeah, don't run.
Now we gotta spend time
pretending.
Oh
now.
fuck, here we go.
Yeah,
Here come the board games. Here comes the family time. No, we kind of did the same thing. What federal agency did you work for?
I was good.
That was it.
The federal agency?
The federal agency.
That's it.
I was with the Department of Homeland Security.
Okay. Nothing more specific than that.
What are you collecting on me? What are you trying to
This has been a setup. We want an access and placement to you. We've been doing this whole podcast thing for this long, just for this, and we fucking got you, man.
Yeah. I'm on to you, Chinese captors.
That racist?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Am I allowed to say? Yeah. Does everybody, no matter what your race, do we all acknowledge that the Chinese are trying to collect on us? Is that?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think,
dude,
it's one time it's okay to be racist.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's because the thing that really woke me up was when I read a story about the BGP hack, where they sent 25% of the internet traffic domestically to the United States through Chinese government servers before it actually got to Google or wherever you're going, and it took them 3 fucking years to find it. They were doing that for 3 years. Oh my god. Yeah.
How about you guys? How was your 2020?
It was all right. Fucked up. Doug's was fucked up. Ben's was fucked up.
I had a moment. I found out in the same week that both my parents had cancer, and then 5 days later, one of them died. But even in that, I know. Wait, though, there's a humor story in this.
Hey, I have another black joke. Yeah, I don't know how to break this one up.
Actually, so I forgot about this. I don't know if I've told you guys this story. So literally, it was like a Monday, I'm in the hospital. Wednesday, we found out she had cancer. Friday, we found out my dad had cancer, and then Sunday, my mom died.
No way.
Yeah, whirlwind. I think that whirlwind's used more on a positive note often, but anyways. So again, really dark humor. I was even through that, we know she was. It wasn't like, oh, she's gonna have another couple of years to live. It was like, oh, she's dying now. So even in that though, it's so hard not to default to humor if that's your default. Yeah. And so again, I'm not joking about this, but my mom died, and the staff. I will give a shout out to Wake Forest because they were fucking amazing in the cancer center. Oh my god, literally the best medical staff that I've ever interacted with. My mom had medical issues her whole life, and every once in a while I'd go to the doctors with her because it just it was pain management was an interesting aspect to me. Anyways, and so I'm talking to the on-call doctor, the charge nurse, another nurse, and the chaplain. She had just died. And I was just kind of thanking them. And I was like, I have to tell you guys. And I was crying. And I was like, hey, I have to tell you guys. I couldn't as this came up and I said this joke, I was like, the fuck? So I was like, hey, I have to. And they were crying. They were all fucking crying. And I was like, hey, I really have to thank you guys. I was like, I'm not saying this because of the gravity of the situation. I'm telling you this objectively. This has been the best treatment I have ever seen from any medical professionals to my mom. And I go, thank God, best for last. And I said that without like thinking about it, right? And one of the nurses, her eyes just went wide, didn't know how to react. And I was like, I make light, but I'm being serious here.
I was let me one up you.
Yes.
To show my real empathy. No, no, it's funny, and I'm glad to hear you say that, because it is, like, again, gallows humor is a way that we process sadness. And my two brothers who are really really funny. They're both cops, so they deal in some dark matter, and my mom was on hospice, and when she passed away, it was like Friday night. So Saturday morning, who's a coroner. Once you die from cancer, like on hospice, not the medical examiner, right? It's the coroner comes in, and so he shows up, and my mom she'd be in a hospice. So she was in like the medical bed.
Mm-hmm.
The guy goes in and he goes, okay, we're gonna go in and like just get her prepared, to
Get her comfortable.
Put her in the whatever the stretcher they take out.
Yeah.
And so my brothers and I are there, and so we've been processing the sadness of this for days, because it was not a slow death.
Yeah.
Thankfully she wasn't in any pain, but it wasn't a slow death. So when she died, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, like you said, it was like we had known this was coming. She went home in hospital.
Yeah, you almost start grieving before.
100%.
Yeah.
Right. So when she finally passed away, there's a little bit of a sense of, okay, she's out of pain now. We knew this was coming, and now the healing can begin, kind of thing. And you're not like, gosh, like, how much longer does she have to, like, her body, like, she be gone, but her body still be like clinging to life. So we, it's off. My sisters-in-law and my wife my wives, multiple, because from Utah. But my wife and my sisters-in-law are gonna hate it. But so it's just my brothers and I when the guy comes out of my mom's bedroom with her body, and he says, and we were like, and they try and be, they're very somber, be respectful, and
It kind of kills
like,
me.
not in the Cleck house. So like my mom would not have had it any other way. So it comes out, he was like, said something, and we were like, oh yeah, we're gonna have her cremated. I said something, and one of my brothers and I were like, so you guys just have like a big giant toaster, or like how does this, just like you just like throw in and cook her up, and like you have like just have a big pan, you give us the ash, or how's this thing work? And these guys were like, they had no idea what to say.
Would your mom have been proud?
Oh yeah,
right.
She had three boys.
Yeah.
All in the service. They were, all of them have been cops at some point. Oh, she wouldn't have had it any other way. She would have gone out.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, so, and just to hear, we were like, so do you have like a giant toaster, or like how's this thing work? The guy was like, no, well, we were like, no, just you put the ashes in like a giant like collector tray, or how's this thing? How do you work? We drop cash on you now? Do we Venmo you? How's this? He was like,
do we Venmo you?
It was the only way that, like, I'm sure, like, well, obviously we enjoyed the shock factor, but there was a part of it that, like, we were processing the sadness in a way that allowed us to have afterwards.
Yeah, you got it, man. It's so important. That, and it's, maybe we had similar moms, because my mom, I mean, we get our dark humor from somewhere.
Yeah.
I think it's also too kind of like an homage, or like, it's like if I die and any of you guys are fucking like real serious for too long, I'm gonna come back and fucking slap you. You know what I mean? Like, go away.
There was a guy who I forget. I wish I had a better story for it, but it's on the internet somewhere. But he gave his own eulogy when he knew he was gonna die, and he gave the most raucous, funny, hilarious eulogy you've ever heard in your life, and it's about him, and he's like doing it like looking down. They told him he said, I want the iPad like up, looking down at my own body, and he gave this.
I fucking love that.
Eulogy. It's like, is there any better way to be remembered than having given your own eulogy for yourself, and having been like self-deprecating about who you were, and it's like, how do we all want to be remembered? Because we all take a dirt nap one day. How do you want to be remembered? As a serious guy who worked his whole life, guy who went down like in a blaze of humor.
Yeah,
and,
went down
yeah,
laughing.
Yeah,
Fuck you
exactly,
all.
right?
I saw a video the other day of a guy who had put a speaker or instructed the people to put a speaker on, in, or near the coffin as it's in the fucking ground, and it sounded like he was trying to get out of the coffin. It was fucking hilarious, and it was like,
That might be too much.
and then but he would say funny stuff. It's like, I forgot to do this. I'm not really dead. And everybody around the whole fucking funeral was just laughing their ass off because the dude was just really funny about it.
I just want like a push button where like people, it's like, hey, if you want to like talk to me and I'm gone, like there's a you can push, and like some Doug sayings come out, and like people will push it, and it'll be like, fuck off, you're alive. Figure your own shit out.
Quit pushing the fucking button. Oh, Neil, what about you? How was your 2020?
It was actually pretty good.
Oh, yeah, it was good?
Yeah.
Nice.
Moved the girlfriend out from California.
That's
to
our producer.
North Carolina. Yeah.
Holy shit, you're like the guy in the coffin.
Neil was I don't know if we told you, but Neil was recon.
Yeah.
I gotta go. I wish I'd never.
That's why I don't get the camera footage.
Yeah. I'm too jacked.
You just get the disembodied voice.
I'm talking from the closet.
What the fuck? Like, there's a lot of shit that happened in 2020, though, wasn't there?
Yeah. Actually, it actually started out with talks of World War III happening. Do you guys remember that?
Oh,
yeah,
no.
when we killed Soleimani, right? You know the crazy part when you mentioned, like, seriously, Neil, remember that? Like, and what a quick, like, blip on the radar that was? Like, oh my God, Trump's about to start World War III. He killed Soleimani. And there's a bunch of us who are like, had it coming.
Right.
And then, like, we're like, but there's also something else to be worried about. And then it just sort of went away. Like, I forgot about World War III. Now we're all united under this global pandemic.
God, the news cycle.
God, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know who I think, I've had this theory. You know who I think started coronavirus? When you think about it, who had the most to lose? Think about the end of 2019, right? Who had the most to lose? Jussie Smollett.
Oh.
Did we even talk about him?
No, we haven't talked about him in forever.
Right?
No, yeah.
Wow.
He needed to be out of the headlines. You're right.
Think about it. Think about it. Is he back on TV? I don't know. Could he be? Yes, because people have forgotten about it.
Did he hire two people to beat him up and then claim it was a hate crime?
Yeah,
is that the whole thing?
Yeah, he was a star on the TV show Empire too. It was a predominantly
right,
black TV show about hip hop.
Okay, and so then he hired two white guys, or no, two black guys. Who did he hire?
Two white guys.
Two white guys to beat him up.
And then he said it was a racist act, and then they found out that he hired the guys to do it for publicity.
Yeah.
And just got rammed through the ringer.
Wow.
I mean, if he hadn't got caught, it's a clever idea.
Yeah.
I mean, horrible.
That wasn't 2020, though, was it? That wasn't 2020.
No, that was the end of
2019.
Okay. Yeah. God.
And then the coronavirus came out. Coincidence? I don't know, man. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it makes sense.
Can we actually have a bit that we do every other episode where you just like blur out this 30-second conspiracy? I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but that's what I have to say.
Yeah, but
what else happened in 2020? You got
I got a list here from Indy100.com.
Oh yeah, what do you got?
So after the World War III stuff, monkeys run riot in Thai City. So because of COVID, all the tourists left, and a bunch of monkeys who the tourists used to feed ran through a Thai city, terrorizing the city in like Planet of the Apes style.
See, like, listen, I know 300,000 Americans have died, but we can still laugh at the monkey thing.
Yeah, that's inbound.
Yeah, that's inbound.
The Pentagon released UFO videos. I know we talk about UFOs here.
Oh yeah. The Pentagon said the UFO videos were real in 2020. That was interesting when that happened.
I don't remember that one.
Oh yeah, that was a real.
Well, you know why you don't remember that? Because you were probably binge watching Tiger King. That was a 2020 release.
Tiger King. There's another guy. Him and Jussie Smollett. Carol Baskin.
Carol Baskins.
Have we even talked about Carol Baskins?
Carol Baskins. Carol Baskins was a star on Dancing with the Stars.
Did they make her dance to "Eye of the Tiger"?
No, but what here's something funny though that they actually did.
You win.
They did a costume dance, right? And guess what she dressed up as? She dressed up as a lions with her dance partner.
Oh, what
They were giant cats. They got eliminated that
what
show.
a fucking sellout.
It was great.
How did they not dance to Eye of the Tiger?
I know, right?
Like 2020 was off to a bang. Like it was a good year because the Tiger King, like the worst show on television, was also the best show on television. And we were like, 2020 is going to be a banner year. We killed Soleimani, and now we've shifted focus to this Tiger King. What could possibly go wrong?
right. And then Kim Jong-un died, and then came back to life, and then died, and then came back to life again.
Oh yeah, yeah. They thought he had COVID for a little while, right? Because he disappeared, and then his sister was trying to take power, and she just got demoted.
And now she's gone
for trying to take power. Yeah, that whole attempted coup thing. Oh my god!
What else you got? What else happened
I
in
got
2020?
Miley Cyrus claims she once had an experience with an alien after being chased by a UFO. Now this is after she bought some weed wax from a guy in a van in front of a taco shop, so it could have been the weed wax. Is a quote unquote.
Or maybe she just ran into Ed Sheeran.
So a UFO followed her? And
yeah. So she bought this weed wax, smoked this weed wax with her friend in San Bernardino, California. Was driving around, and a UFO chased her down, and it was in the shape of a yellow snowplow.
I don't even know what weed wax is. Have I been out of the game that long that I just don't even know what weed wax is?
It's like I
That's
think
one of my chores, along with edging and blowing leaves. That's a chore. That's a dad joke, isn't it? That's pretty bad. It's a dad joke.
I have no idea what
it.
weed wax is. I think it might be a tar component of the weed.
I think it's like dabs, isn't it?
Yeah, it's dabs.
It's like a waxy
substance
paste
with high THC content.
Yeah.
Okay, so kind of like keef in the bottom of your grinder.
Yeah, but just put that in a wax form and smoke it and get super high.
Jeez.
So the song WAP came out.
Wow.
That was a big praise. And then
was that early in 2020 or was that late in 2020?
No, that's a little bit mid 2020s. And then
I didn't find out about that till like December.
Yeah, Ben Shapiro
Behind the Curve
sang the lyrics to it, and the internet went crazy saying that his wife has a WAP.
Oh, Ben Shapiro, the conservative
conservative guy?
Yeah, he
Why did
he did a speech and he read the lyrics off.
Nice.
All right, hold on. Actually,
And they got to put of course somebody put it to music.
I gotta look this up.
That's amazing.
There's not much else happened. I mean, Murder Hornets happened that we thought was the next part of 2020 that turned out to not really be a thing, except it would kill beehives, but it actually wasn't a problem that everyone thought was a problem.
Well, they found one. They found a big bee's nest in Washington,
Oregon.
right?
Yeah,
Oregon.
right? Yeah.
Somewhere, one of those places. Probably, but you never know. They legalized weed and mushrooms. They could be hallucinating as well.
Right around the same time there. The U.S. Postal Service told you to not open up any packages of seeds coming from China and plant them. Apparently, a guy was planting seeds from China that he got in the mail randomly. Like, he never ordered them or nothing. He just planted them, and it was like an invasive species of plants from China.
What kind of fucking 5D chess is that shit?
That's like sleeping with a stripper who anonymously just shows up at your house.
Right?
Yeah. Why would you just plant seeds?
I was
Let
going
me
to
open
open
this
this
Pandora's
analogy, but you went to some really far out analogy. I feel like there's.
Yeah, we're done with analogies on that one.
I don't want to pull the curtain back on that one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to Google this seed thing later because that's weird.
Yeah.
And then that stripper turns out to be a dude.
Next thing you know, it's 2016 and I'm here. I'm making that up.
He was a Chinese dude. And then he called me
Are you ever
racist.
gonna leave? And he's like, "No, dude, I've made my bed on your couch, and I'm staying for the next 6 weeks too." And you're like,
You guys know what I mean?
"Yeah, that's not an analogy. That's a personal story."
Wait, bro, are you confusing analogies for personal stories again?
Yeah.
Something cool came out in 2022. Water was actually discovered on the moon.
Oh, nice. Somebody
Really?
drop a water bottle up there.
if we ever win. Conspiracy theory. Yeah, but no one ever paid attention to that. That was actually a big headline came out of NASA, but no one paid attention to that because it went right back to WAP again.
Yeah.
Yeah, Carl, I believe Carl Sagan used to suggest that we would never find water on the moon, but that story goes very tangential.
That's before Neil Armstrong dropped his water bottle up there.
That's before someone up there went up there with a WAP.
Yeah, right. Oh man, 2020 is crazy, man. A pair of gay penguins stole an egg from a pair of lesbian penguins.
It's literally from Parks and Rec.
That's a headline.
Yeah, that is ripped from the headlines. Yeah, that's right. Park Records.
Yeah.
Mad Magazine.
And then
Are you sure you're not reading The Onion?
I swear, dude. I swear, man. This is all 2020 stuff.
We can't discern the difference between reading The Onion or real headlines. That's where we are as a species.
Dude, history books in the future are gonna be awesome.
Oh, dude.
Can you imagine being in school studying this and go, wait, what?
Well, can you
What?
imagine taking like a
What?
highlight
That's
book?
pussy.
Can you imagine taking the highlight book of the last couple of years and going back like 30 years and be like, hey, this is what's gonna happen?
You're tested on it.
Yeah, someone's gonna be like,
All disasters
this is
from January to
none
March.
of this is
go.
happening.
Like, so we have this great nostalgic view of 1918, like when the Spanish flu came through, right? And we're like, oh, like our parents persevered and they were just coming out of World War I, and like what a everybody, victory gardens and people were coming together, and like our grandkids are gonna be like, hey, granddad, let me read this shit to you. Let me make sure I got this right. You guys killed this terrorist, and then the coronavirus, and then you guys took us out of school, and you put us back in, and then there was some sort of tiger lady who had killed her husband, but she was like a dancing star. Like, what in the fuck did you guys? What's the matter with you guys? We were on the weed whack, man.
Weed
Weed wax.
Where were you during all this, Grandpa? I was at Costco buying toilet paper.
Greatest generation, my ass. You don't know shit about the great toilet paper dispersion.
I had to wipe my ass with paper towels, kid.
That toilet paper thing just goes to show like the absurdity of how
Shitty.
how contagious panic.
Oh, totally.
Oh, yeah.
Totally.
Nowhere in there did any scientist ever be like, by the way, when you get this coronavirus, you're gonna have the shits. Like, people just gravitated like one.
Wasn't it a news article?
I don't know. One dude at Costco
Right?
was like, yeah, I'm gonna buy up like 16 things of these, and everyone's like, yo, that guy knows something we don't.
Oh, yeah.
That's like Neil deGrasse Tyson. They need to get on board with that shit. And it
Gosh.
just spread.
Oh, here's
You
a
know
fun.
what's funny? I think I fucking predicted that though, because I think in 1919 or 2019 we had a show and somebody said something about stockpiling something or other, and I was like, you know what the fucking future of trade is going to be? Toilet paper, and it's specifically
I feel like you
Charmin.
did make that joke.
And I swear to God, I thought I said something about toilet because I do believe like one of the luxury items, and you want to talk about baller, fucking taking your luxury item that you have that nobody else has, and then you wipe your ass with it and throw it away. Yeah, it's pretty fucking amazing.
Like going to like future trading, like which commodities. go up
Futures
and down.
trading?
I work in a warehouse for Aldi, right?
Yeah.
This is how stupid the American people is, right?
Okay.
They bought all the toilet paper out of the warehouse, but they left all the non-perishable stuff in the warehouse and fully stocked. The warehouse was packed with canned goods, with everything you could possibly think of for survival. Us thinking about survival, what would you do in an apocalyptic situation? And they bought toilet paper.
Yeah.
It just baffles me.
I don't mean to pick on you because you're a Marine, but I like
Hey.
the irony is not lost on me that you said, listen to how stupid the American people is.
I know. I caught it as I was saying it. Thank you. Thanks for calling that out. Oh, by the way, new headline from
I
2020.
was doing a grammar check in my head real quick. I was like, is our single pronoun?
I'm running out of crayons back here. The energy's going down.
He's eating all the crayons we gave him, man.
Another
The
2020.
only thing that made it so sweet was the fact that you was talking about how stupid the American people is.
Oh man, I'm a Browns fan, so that R is like the Browns is the Browns. It's been stuck in my head all week. Speaking of Philadelphia, in 2020, Philadelphia Flyers mascot Gritty was under investigation for assault. I don't know if you know about that. The headline says, apparently the giant orange Muppet from hell punched a 13-year-old fan from a photo shoot in November.
Oh my god.
Like a true Philadelphian, I'm like, what the fuck did that kid do to deserve it? Dismissed.
He shouldn't have been so fucking lippy.
Yeah.
A
Case dismissed.
big celebrities that died in 2020 was Mr. Peanut.
Mr. Peanut died.
Yeah, do
What?
you remember the peanut guy?
Oh yeah, the peanut guy in the Planters peanut can.
I thought it was CGI.
They
And he's
replaced him.
dead. They replaced him.
So not a real death.
Okay. I went real literal on that one.
during the wildfires that happened in 2020. You guys remember the wildfires?
Oh shit! Yeah,
Yeah, that
like
happened
all of
2020.
Australia was.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, Australia
They
was
don't-
burning.
They don't talk about the wildfires in these headlines. They talk about the lady who sent nudes to everyone who donated $10 for the wildfire.
Wait a minute.
That makes me a little sad
Is
to
she
be
still
human.
accepting? She's still accepting donations?
Wait,
How did I miss this?
I'm a philanthropist.
They said,
Send me this
oh
link.
my god. They said she went above and beyond by sending nudes to anyone who donated at least $10 to organizations working to put out fires, and she raised over $1 million.
Nice.
Wow.
Showed
Did
the
you
bush.
get a preview of what she looked like beforehand, or is just like some rando?
I'll send you the link.
He's got the OnlyFans link.
And I'll pretend like I didn't send her $150.
Speak.
Those DMs.
Speaking of OnlyFans, that was created in 2020 as well.
Oh my god.
Set up a Facebook of your nudes and make the money on the side.
Sweet. I'm in.
I don't know how much people pay for mine. They'd be like, "Why this baby sausage? Damn it! Fuck. Why would this baby sausage be in this pile of cut hair?"
And the last one on this page
I
is
pooched
that,
that one.
you can you can make goop vagina candles.
Goop vagina.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was that celebrity. He has that candle line.
Gwyn Paltrow.
I like how you know this
Yeah,
one.
Yeah.
Gwen Paltrow. Yep.
He's like, "Oh yeah. What vagina candles?"
Gwyneth Paltrow.
We zoom out on your shot, and you got a whole like wall of them.
It's all around them.
Oh my
I
god.
was
That's
an
all I
early
got,
investor.
All right. I'd love to keep this going forever. We're definitely going to have you on the show in the future. And if people want to find out where you are and what you're doing, where do they go online?
Well, I'm we're on. You can check out our YouTube channel. You can check out our podcast, the Greencastle Podcast. Also, Entrepreneurs Comedy. That's where Josh and I. You can see some of our stand up. It's common spelling, Entrepreneurs Comedy. Just say it in Siri, and Siri will come up with some shit that looks like it. But it's Jonathan Cleck. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, and that's about it. I'm for a guy who's put this shit out on the internet.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing you're going to have to deal with, right? I mean, guys from your background, SEALs and other operatives and federal agents and whatnot, typically don't have a high-profile social build-up of Twitter and Instagram and yada yada yada. I know Doug does all of the above. How are you gonna deal with that moving forward with when you need to start connecting with fans? You're gonna give in and do the Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff, or you're gonna make them beg?
Yeah, I think like I'll have to get on the gram. I'll have to
Yep.
start being more active on Instagram. It's just it's like it's a transition. Hell, everybody on this call or on this podcast knows that it's like coming from the service to where you're part of a team. You're a little more reticent about what you're talking about, and then you suddenly have to hang it out there. It's a transition, one that I'm still kind of finding my way through. But comedy definitely gives me the platform to be able to hang it out there, to talk about being a team guy, to talk about being being in law enforcement. So it's been a good platform to get out there and have some fun with it. Now just figure out how to exploit it, I guess.
Well, as I said in the top of the show, I got the greatest respect for anybody who makes it their life mission to make anybody else laugh, because I think it's the greatest thing in the world. It has amazing positive effects in health and psychological well-being, and anybody who spends their life wanting to help people in that way, fuck everybody else and love that guy. So thank you very much for that. And thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me on, guys. This was fun. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
All right, we're out. No? Yeah? Or I guess I should do my little wrap up.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Am I on the camera there?
Yep.
This is the beauty of editing. Watch this. All this shit is going to disappear until this moment. Thank you, guys. Whoa, what the fuck was that? Did you hear that audio thing?
Yeah, you just went like way off the charts.
Well, thanks for guys for watching.
Sorry, that was me.
More editing.
This is shit that's going to go in the bonus footage. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like icons, drop us a comment on the video, share us out to your friends. Love you. Talk to you soon. Peace.